Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are digging into an absolute giant of a book about an absolute giant of a man, Ron Chernow's biography, Titan, all about the one and only John D. Rockefeller Sr. This is the man who pretty much wrote the rulebook for American capitalism.
So who was this guy really? Was he a ruthless monster who destroyed anyone who got in his way? Or was he a devout, God-fearing man who used his fortune to literally change the world for the better? Well, the incredible thing Chernow argues is that he was both, and you can't understand one side of him without the other. So how does that even work? Let's dive in.
Here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll give you a quick introduction to the book itself. Then, we're going to peer through 5 windows into Rockefeller's mind using some key quotes. After that, we'll pull out the single biggest lesson of his life, give you our final take on the book, and finish up by suggesting a couple of other great reads. Okay, first up, let's get acquainted with this incredible piece of work that really changed how we see this American Titan.
So Titan was written by the legendary biographer Ron Chernow back in 1998. It's a massive work of biography and history, and it's really for anyone who's fascinated by the people who, for better or worse, built the world we live in today.
The main point of the whole book is this. Chernow says, forget the cartoon villain you think you know. For decades, that's all Rockefeller was. But by getting access to all these new family archives, Chernow paints a picture of a man who is a complete enigma, a real sphinx. He shows how the same personality traits that built a ruthless empire also fueled a world-changing philanthropic mission.
So, how exactly does Chernow show us this complex guy? He uses these perfect little anecdotes and quotes that just open up a window into Rockefeller's mind. We're going to look at 5 of them. They really get to the heart of who this man was.
So what was his secret sauce? Well, it all started with an obsession with precision that was, frankly, not human.
You hear that from one of his first partners, right? His empire wasn't just built on being aggressive. It was built on this fanatical, almost religious attention to every single detail. He counted for every penny, which allowed him to create efficiencies his competitors couldn't even dream of.
And that obsession with control went way beyond just numbers. It was all about information. He understood, maybe better than anyone, that what isn't written down can't be used against you.
I mean, this quote is just pure, cold-blooded genius. This is how he built the Standard Oil monopoly. He made secret handshake deals with the railroads for special discounts, rebates that let him sell his oil cheaper than anyone. And then he could publicly and legally deny it all because nothing was ever on paper.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This wasn't just about money for him, not at all. In his mind, all that wealth, all that power, it was a gift from God.
Now listen, this wasn't just some excuse he gave in public. Chernow makes it crystal clear that this was a deeply held belief. Rockefeller truly saw his fortune as a sacred trust from God, which meant that giving it away wasn't just a choice, it was a profound, almost crushing duty.
And that sense of discipline was even stronger at home. You'd think the richest man on earth would live in insane luxury. But nope, his house was run with extreme frugality.
This little story, which comes from his equally devout wife Seti, is so revealing. Here's a guy who could have bought every bicycle on the planet, but he buys just one for all his kids. Why? To teach them character. He was terrified that his money would corrupt his children.
And finally, this massive, methodical vision wasn't just for his company or his country. Right from the very start, his ambitions were global.
This is so important. Rockefeller knew from day one that oil was a global business. He didn't just stumble into international markets by accident. He designed Standard Oil from the ground up to dominate them. It was part of the plan from the very beginning.
So you put all that together, the details, the secrecy, the faith, the frugality, the global vision. What's the one big thing Titan wants us to understand?
Well, it all comes down to this idea, the Rockefeller paradox. The exact same qualities that made him a monster in business, that insane discipline and obsessive focus, are the very same qualities that made him one of the greatest philanthropists in history. His genius and his monstrosity grew from the exact same root. You can't separate the man who crushed his rivals from the man who cured diseases.
Okay, so that's the man. But what about the book? As a piece of historical writing, how does Titan stack up?
Well, the strengths are just off the charts. The research is unbelievable thanks to those new archives. The book is so masterfully balanced, it never falls into the easy trap of just calling him a hero or a villain. And somehow, it makes dense business history read like a thriller. The only real weakness?
It is a beast of a book, almost 800 pages. So, it's a commitment.
So, for its definitive research, its incredible narrative power, and for the profound way it helps us understand the birth of modern America, we are giving Titan a final score of 9.5 out of 10. It is, without a doubt, a masterpiece of the genre.
And if this has got you fired up to learn more about this era, we've got a couple more books you should definitely check out.
First, there's The First Tycoon by T.J. Stiles, which is all about Cornelius Vanderbilt, kind of the original Titan before Rockefeller. Then there's David Nassau's fantastic biography of Andrew Carnegie, who was Rockefeller's biggest rival in both making money and giving it away. Both are absolutely phenomenal reads.
That's all for this explainer. If you want to keep diving deep into the monumental books that shaped our world, make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.